right, sorry for a little bit of a slow week in coverage. I'm going to try to make it up at the tail end. My 6-year-old suddenly seemed to fully go into Christmas mode, and he wanted all kinds of stuff to decorate the house, lights, the whole 9 yards, and it just kind of sprung out. And so I had this big increase in Christmas additions to the house and all this other stuff. I couldn't resist. So that kind of slowed things down. So I got to get back to my comments today. I have probably 3 podcasts by Saturday. I'm going to try to get 2 out today. But today what I want to cover, one is we are clearly, unless some epic disaster happens, going to make the playoffs. So this is going to be a step forward. 90%, it's like 81%. We have 3 games. I'll go over the whole thing. So we have to get prepared for that. And for me, it's really good news. I set the evaluation as second in the division. We're so close to taking that. And then making the playoffs. Now with the addition of Chubb, playoff win. That could get sticky. But despite my desire to have that win, I also have to create context and understanding. So I'm going to go over that as well. Then there's Chubb. I see a lot of people, all of us are disappointed. We expected much more. But again, context is key. You've got to add context to all kinds. I tell my son all the time this. You could have a guy run a race, lose, come in last place, and you could say, you're a bum. But if the guy's got one leg, you've got to judge him differently. It's about the situation. Now, it's not about excuses, because context is not excuses. So I want to add a lot of context to Chubb. I think things are going to go well, most likely next year. But I'm kind of going to give some understanding of his situation and why he is seeing quote-unquote struggles. But when you dig a little deeper, you'll see he is being productive, but there's things that are going to take it to the next step. Okay, and then I want to cover Gesicki. Mike Gesicki is a situation that's really at the tail end. And I think, I believe that you need to evaluate things through, and it takes a while to get to a final foot in the ground and evaluation of things. I know it's all about knee-jerk. We opened the season. We were going to the Super Bowl. Then Tua got injured with Cincy. We weren't going anywhere. The season was over. Tua came back and had a couple great games. We're going to the Super Bowl. Lost to the 49ers, Chargers, and then last week against the Bills, and it was all over. I understand. But the reality is there is a longer portion where the unknown is involved in an evaluation. There is the known. And so we're getting close to that portion of the known. With Gesicki, I think we're just about there. So I'm going to cover that and a few little news items as well. One last part, I had covered stuff last time, and I didn't really do as good a job as I wanted to presenting. Some of the stories that I was talking about, I put tweets on because there was a lot of stories around them that were coming out, and I just kind of assumed people knew them. I wanted to put them in there, and it just didn't work out. They were the tweets that I had up there. One about Tua, that was an article. One about McDaniel, that was a couple of articles. The one about Boy, I showed his rankings, but there was a couple of articles out there. I'll put them in next time when I do what I should have done here, but I got a lot of information put up in graphics, so next time I'll show that. So that someone was like, well, this is not really a story. It is. It was out. You go to Bleacher Report, it was like a front page thing. So anyway, whatever. So I'm going to cover all of it, and I think fans, as we get into this last stage, need to be very, very excited. Not to say that excitement will be fulfilled, and I'm going to cover that. But, guys, we could easily end up with 10 wins in the playoffs. And if you look at last year with the Bengals, they took it to the Super Bowl from a wild card. Doesn't mean we will, but the potential is there. So stay excited, but continue evaluating. It's going to be very, very interesting. I'm going to have one last point tomorrow, later on today. I'm going to do the Green Bay versus Miami matchup, and I think it's going to be a little harder game than I originally thought, or we all thought. I still think we got the edge, clearly. But this one's going to be a little more complicated than, I know, we originally thought, and maybe some people are making it out to be. Anyway, so thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it as always. You guys make the channel go. Without you, there's basically no channel. But I also want to give a shout out to Acebread, my sponsor, because without you, without them, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, so guys, there's people who are a longtime Dolphins fans. They saw the perfect season. When you've had the gourmet 12-course meal, on the exotic island in a castle looking at the sunset, anything after that is kind of like ho-hum. And so you have a group of those people who have seen the best of the possible best of a season. And all the stuff after, even the Dan Marino years, which for me was the prime, I thought that was a good years. I mean, that letdowns, don't get me wrong. But those were pretty fun years. Those sucked compared to the awesome years of Shula in the 70s. And then I'll say the Dan Marino years were very, very fun. I always believed in Dan and Shula and Cox. I love Keith Byers, man. There was Dwight Stevenson, Duper and Clayton. You had a whole cast of guys you loved to see every week, and you thought really up until like 94 anything was possible. Then you had the Jimmy Johnson years. These people grow. Jimmy Johnson was pretty good. We went to the playoffs like 3 years. We won one, and then you got the Juan Stash years, and those were really good too. I mean, you won a division once, and you went to and then it got worse and worse and worse. But there's some fans out there who have never seen a playoff win. And for them, just getting into this playoff game is an amazing season. Now, that's the context. Reality is, as we look into it, it is going to be fun for the Dolphins to make the playoffs. If they do, I think it's, 81% chance to make the playoffs since the Jets lost. I saw someplace else 78%. I saw two places. It's high. It's real high. And a 17% to win the AFC East, I don't see that as a possibility. So second and postseason is on the table. And there is a group of fans that are very, very happy considering what we've seen. We haven't gone to the playoffs since 2016 with Gase, and we got booted real hard by the Steelers. And then you look back, it was 2008. We won a division. And we had the whole nine. We were looking good first year. Parcells, Sperano won the division, got booted hard by the Ravens. And then you got to go back even farther. 2001, we got shellacked by the Ravens in the first round. And then in 2000, we won the AFC again. We beat the Colts in that overtime game by 3, I believe. We had a running game. I was like, oh. I hate the stash, but I kind of like that. But then we got destroyed 27-0 by the Raiders the next week. And so that's 22 years. 22 years. 4 playoff appearances, 1 win, and a load of shellacking. So it is good that we're making the playoffs this year, most likely. We should be excited about that. I mean, if we don't make the playoffs now, this is one of the most epic meltdowns of all time. And cross your fingers, do the dance and everything. We cannot let that happen. It would be so ugly. It would be beyond ugly. So, but when we get there, guys, we have so much talent. And despite the issues that we have, there's weaknesses still, and they can be refined next year. I'll go over some of that. We must win. But there's a complication. If we just stumble into the playoffs, right, and we go 7th seed, we're probably going to face KC up in KC, and that will likely be very tough. And it could end up being a shellacking, and that would be a letdown. But if we can end with 11 games, it will assure us a trip to the playoffs, and it might get us a better first round. We can get that first round. And if we can get just one win this year, just one, considering how they can retool, if they just added 2 solid offensive linemen, one blocking tight end, you would see a much different team. And that is totally possible. Got a second, got a third. So there is real opportunities to build on what we have. Defense needs its little fixing, but I'll get into that as well when I get into Chubb. I think that can be fixed as well. So we need to keep the momentum going. There is possibilities, but nothing's guaranteed. Finding those linemen, finding the right players, is not 100% certainty. So let's keep evaluating. Let's be excited about the possibility of playoffs. And no matter what Dolphin fan you are, you might be not liking Tua, you might be loving Tua, you think he's the greatest of all time. You might not like B. McDaniel, you might think he's the greatest, and on and it goes. But it would be so disheartening and ugly for us not to make the playoffs. And it would be kind of a real bummer if we can't win this one game. So let's all hope that we can get this. It's on the table. We're probably going to go there. We must beat the Packers. There's some issues. We have to beat New England. That's the one. I forgot how. I'll go over the next time. But if we beat the Jets and we beat Green Bay, I think our chances are really high. So Jets are really kind of on the outside. We would have to lose 2 games, and they'd have to win 2 games, 1 game, and then kind of come together. So we need at least 2 of these 3. 3 out of 3 is beautiful. So that's really that. And I know some people will say, well, our defense stinks. And it does. And I don't personally, like I did my last podcast saying, Boy is getting left out into the breeze here. And he's getting put up there to be executed if things go wrong. And it's not to say I love Boyer, but I think it's only fair to add context. And this context also works hand in hand for Greer and for Chubb. Football is a team sport. You have the best defense in the world and no run game, and you're off the field all the time, and this defense starts out totally hot and melts down by the end of the season. And you can say the defense sucks. No, it's the run game. Everything works in synergy. Not everything has to be great, but there's certain levels that compromise other aspects. And for our defense, for Chubb runs a 4.7. He's pretty quick for a big guy, but he's not Phillips. But if you go back and you look at Chubb, he will fit perfectly in the new defense we'll probably have next year. And that probably won't include Boyer. He's not the end-all, be-all to why this defense stinks, but he should be moved on. From what I've heard from comments and seen here and there, McDaniel, he wanted somebody else. He wanted Vic Fangio. He wanted a more simplistic defense, kind of a zone coverage, kind of like what you saw in San Fran. Chris Greer talked him to keeping Boyer, and I thought that was wise, and I think it would have been if you had Byron Jones and a healthy Howard and Nick Needham. This defense would look totally different. You would have had better coverage, and coverage creates sacks. If you look at Chubb, you could say he's a bust. We paid all this money. But Bills, 3 pressures, 2 hurries. Chargers, 6 pressures, 3 hits, 3 hurries. 49ers, 2 hurries, 4 pressures. And Texans, 2 hurries, 4 pressures. I believe that's what it was. Handwriting's a little screwed up. So, but he's been generating pressure. But if you watch, he's made mistakes. There's mistakes, clear mistakes, and they were costly, some of them. But he's been in the area. At 4.7, you need a little better pass coverage to get that pressure to arrive. And if we had better pass coverage, his stats would look way better, and so would Phillips. And if we move to a Fangio system, which is a 3-4 system, you could see him at the Sam linebacker, the big linebacker, kind of run-stop guy. He can't cover. He's terrible in coverage. But then on the other side, the weak, you could have Phillips who covers really well. And these guys would fit perfectly, especially when you get, Agba inside, Sealer inside, and Wilkins inside. And then you got to find yourself some linebackers. And you could do that. You could have Kohu. You could have X. And even if X is got the groin issue and he's hurt, he could play his coverage. He started at cover 3, was really good. And then he moved over to man and had that huge success and all that. So, and then you got Holland, you got Jones. So this defense really could be filled out with the addition of one excellent linebacker and then somebody else to play that second linebacker, which I don't think is going to include Baker. But he could stay too, So this defense could turn around, get the coverage you're looking for, because right now you play zero. You don't have guys who can play corner long enough. So even if you blitz, we blitz a lot and the play gets off because the coverage is not there. So then you go to a zone coverage and you don't have the linebackers to play zone coverage. They don't have a feel for the depth, for the positioning. They haven't played it really as much, or maybe just not their skill set. And so all this kind of boils together to sap away what Chubb could be. He's not playing terrible. He's made mistakes, but a better secondary. And our secondary is bad. Way before Boyer or Chubb or anybody else, the secondary's ability to do its job and cover. So the primary reason why this defense is struggling is because you just don't have the coverage to run either man or zone, and that's where you got to start. I think Vic Fangio would be a much better addition. I think going to a more zone style, and Fangio likes to move guys around, which is sort of like Flores. This all could come together next year, and Chubb could explode. Could. So that's my 2 cents on Chubb. You need context for the situation. And even whatever happens this season, you have to understand that going forward. And that says that Grier spent a lot on Chubb, but you can't say, oh, it was a bad move considering how Chubb's playing now. I liked Van Ginkel. I thought he was a cheaper option. We could use those pieces elsewhere, but this is going to have to be a 2-year evaluation. So that's that. Now, for Gesicki, it's way clearer. That was a drop ball. It's mysterious. It makes no sense. His lack of usage and incorrect usage makes no sense. It makes no sense how we didn't trade him away. We're not even going to get a conditional pick for him because you need at least 35% of like the ranking of snaps in order to get a pick. And Gesicki's doing 44%. So there's no way we're going to get anything for Gesicki. He's just going to move on. And he's going to go away, and we're going to get bubkiss for it. So it don't make sense why we didn't move him on. And some people say he can't. It doesn't matter. He could be used elsewhere and be very successful. He just has a limited skill set, but a high-end skill set. But we're not using him properly. And I don't understand how we can't. I think some of that has to do with the run game. If you brought a two, but it goes back to personnel. We have a 2 tight end set. If we had an excellent blocking tight end who could also catch and he could play on the other side, you could get him off on the backside on a play action, a legitimate play action, and he could use his height and speed in mid to late clock to get open and make big plays. Problem is, we don't have that blocking tight end and we don't run enough, and teams don't legitimately respect our run game. And then we can't protect long enough in 5 man blocking or 5.5, you got a guy chip and go, to get him out on those deep posts where he really thrives. He's not a good corner, a good out or in. He's a post and a corner guy. But we are not built to really utilize him. And so McDaniel, I don't understand why we can't get him going, but I do. You know what I'm saying? So he's going to go. And he's done. I think that evaluation is very clear. I believe that Grier dropped the ball on that in a lot of ways. Should have just moved on from him. We could have used that money. And, $10 million. We could have put offensive linemen on this team. So that's that. Those are the 3 main stories that I want to kind of cover, along with some other news things that are popping. Now, Joe Shad, you can see right here, Coach Applebaum says there isn't anything Liam Eichenberg can't accomplish within this scheme. Of course there's nothing he can't. It fits his skill set, but his ability hasn't shown that he can actually do it. There's been a little glimpses, but these are 2 terrible seasons. But I don't want to get on Applebaum. I thought last year his talk about how we called a good game, but it was the execution was garbage. But he's a human being. I say stupid things, and then I say good things. Got to call it out for what it is. What else is he supposed to say? So I just hope they don't put him back in. If he starts, that's going to be very, very curious. And then I would get on him. But at this point, you got a second and third in Eichenberg. You got to obviously say this. Then Mike McDaniel doesn't really second guess himself. He's process driven. He's focused on getting things resolved and examining the process. That's how you get the results you're looking for. Dolphins, Frank Smith. Well, in reality, you shouldn't second guess yourself. You can't in the game, post game, when you're looking over the tape. You got to second guess yourself because you don't. You're just going to repeat the same mistakes. So I don't know what he means here. I think he's just trying to move forward. Of course, he can't second guess himself during a game. You're never getting anywhere with half a mind here and half a mind there. So I like that. But if he's not second guessing himself in film study and after the game, that's a problem. But I don't think that's it either. Well, we'll see this week. This is a key game. This is a key game in many ways, but one of them for McDaniel's ability to run an offense. I enjoyed this week the comments they got from Rodgers about Tua. You see here, obviously good pocket movement. He can extend the plays. They've had a couple of pretty incredible fourth quarter comebacks this year where he's been super efficient. He has some great weapons, but I've been impressed by the way he plays and the way he handles himself too. I think he handles himself with a lot of respect and class, and I think that says a lot about the young player. And I'll say this. He's shown more intestinal fortitude with the way he's handled things because it's been a tough 3 weeks, and his coaching staff has kind of said, do it a little bit. But he's been strong, came into this Bills game under intense pressure and played well. Played well. You minus all these drops and the situational faux pas that were called. He played well, played under pressure. And to me, this was a big, big evaluation. And so, he didn't have to say all this, Rodgers, but he did. And he broke out some things out of the box. And I appreciated that. That's nice. So, right here, you can clinch a playoff spot with wins against Green Bay and Patriots or wins against Jets and Patriots. So that's the deal. If we lose this week, we need to win the next 2 weeks and we're in. Or we win Patriots and Green Bay and then whatever happens against the Jets game, whatever. I like that. I don't want to have all that pressure at the end on the last game. So if they lose to Green Bay and New England and beat the Jets, they have 75% chance to make it. That's great news. Now, last little bit for people who kind of got a little upset that I had spoke about McDaniel not calling good plays. See right here, Dolphins have passed 8 times on 3rd and 1 and converted 1. O.C. Smith, this AM on those plays versus Bills, we felt opportunities presented for the throwing the ball, advantageous looks to throw it, but didn't exactly get what we thought would play out on the play. Don't know if he means the defense wasn't what he thought, although if you've got a big look or a 12 personnel or 21 and you're going against a nickel on 3rd and 1, you probably want to run. So that's just a little information just in case you hadn't seen it. So overall, we've got ups and downs, a new system, new staff. Let's see how it plays out. We got 3 games. This one's going to be a big one. All 3 of these are going to be a big one. But let's just be a little patient. And, if I'm here saying, I don't like this, that doesn't mean I despise the entirety of what the person does. Or if I say I like this, doesn't mean I think everything he does is great. It's just nuanced evaluation. Anyway, guys, great game. Have a Merry Christmas. I got 2 more podcasts coming from you. I'll cover post-game as well. Big one, exciting one. Beating Rodgers at home will be a nice feather in this team's cap. Curtis saying, catch you next time. Be well. Go Phins. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with acebread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.